Hey everybody, welcome to While You're Reforging. My name is Doug with 2+ Tough, and this is my Friday chill show. If this is your first one here, welcome. Throughout the week I like to do like pre-recorded videos for the most part. I'll play video games live occasionally or something like that. But every Friday I like to do a live show where it's more informal. Just kind of hang out, get to know you, you get to know me a little bit more, and we're just going to chill, have a few topics like hobby progress, what I've been painting, what I've been playing, as well as a sort of a main topic for the day after we review the news for the week, which there's quite a bit this week, so I am very excited. Let me move my chat over so I can actually see the darn thing. I always forget to do that the second I start up my stream. Hey, this is the charity stream, isn't it? No. At least it shouldn't be. It should be While You're Reforging. That's at least what it says on the thing. But thank you so much, Mole Miner. No, but I will be talking about the charity stream here in a little bit, so thank you so much for bringing that up. Now, the way I do the show, if you're not familiar with it, is I'll tackle each subject, or like, part of the show, and then I will open it up for discussion. So like I'll cover my hobby progress, and I'll open it up to tell me what projects you've been working on, and we can chat about it and have a fun time there. So without further ado, let me pull up my my little guide here to keep me on point. There we go. Let's go jump into some hobby progress. So down here at the downward cam, I got a little bit done this week actually. So I built, and I had a Primapalooza because the weather, the humidity finally let up like for 3 days, just long enough for me to get out there and prime a mountain of things. All of it slaves to darkness stuff. I got the endless spells, the start collecting box, a gaunt summoner on disc, all that stuff. And in addition to that, a few more goodies. So what you see here to the left are 10 cultist conversions that I made. I really don't like the Chaos Marauder sculpts, and so I made my own. And so these are my Marauders. They are a mix of the Poxwalkers from the last 40k starter set, and a box of Flagellants from Devoted to Sigmar. And I just threw them together with some green stuff to fill in the gaps of where the arms and that kind of stuff didn't meet. I'm gonna be painting them today, and when they're all done I'll take better pictures. They're sort of in that ugly phase. You know what I'm talking about? You ever been painting and like you're blocking out colors, you haven't put any washes on yet, and you're like, God, I don't know if this project's gonna work. And then the second you douse it in a wash, I mean, I use thinned out washes, but the second you put a wash on it and like all the details kind of crisp out, you're like, oh yeah, we're back on. That's pretty much where I'm at right now. Let's see. So I got those guys. Now, as far as stuff I finished, I have a few things here that some of you might recognize. So when the new GHB came out, they moved Chaos Warriors from units of 5 at base to units of 10. And that was a big pain in the butt for me because I had 15 painted Chaos Warriors, my 3 minimums. So I went and I got 2 boxes of the Kagura's Ravagers, which is the Underworld's warband that uses Chaos Warriors and that kind of stuff to fill out those last few. So I have 1 set painted, and I'm actually playing some Underworlds this weekend in person, so I'm very excited about that. Yeah, so this is the warband Kagura's Ravagers, using her as a Chaos Sorcerer Lord or Sorceress in a Warcry campaign that I'll talk about here in a bit. And we got a few other guys that I just picked out of the start collecting box. So yeah, I painted just enough warriors to finish off a unit. I'm trying to get as many units done as possible, like round out existing projects, put a pin in it kind of a thing, and so that's kind of where I've been at. Let's see. That, I think, is about it for me. It was a pretty short hobby progress because, quite frankly, I've been waiting like 2 weeks to have good weather to go out and prime. It was just this nasty Iowan monsoon season of just like perpetual humidity, which was super gross. It was really gross outside. Anyway, so that's been pretty much it for me. The Chaos Marauders were quite a bit of fun to put together, and I'm really glad to be starting to put paint on them. I'm going to be painting them later today during our stream. But yeah, so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and turn it here and open it up for you guys. What have you been working on this last week? While you're typing out your answers, because there is a delay between you and I'm going to go hit up the chat and answer any questions that I can. So, let's see. What's the best place to get cheap models, specifically dragon ogres? I do not know of one, but if anyone has a suggestion on where to get dragon ogres, like a different alternate sculpt, let us know. Hey, Jimmy. Hobby Hero. Hello, played the funniest game of Kill Team. My friend had to escape off the battlefield. Each turn his team would go one way and I would follow. 3 turns of a goose chase and only 3 models fired weapons. Oh my goodness. That sounds like the worst game of Kill Team, but also hilarious. I do appreciate it. Is it Nezumi Ninja? I don't know how to pronounce that. Would you suggest Warcry or Path to Glory if you're going for narrative? Well, they're very different games. It depends on kind of what you and your group want to do. If the goal is to eventually get into Age of Sigmar, like as a full army game, Path to Glory beats it hands down. Even if you just decide, as a group, we're not going to go beyond 1,000 points, that's totally fine. I would recommend Path to Glory. If you and your group really like short, quick games, which seems to be the norm for me in my local area, probably better off with Warcry or something like that. They're just, Warcry is its own thing compared to Age of Sigmar. Path of Glory is like a narrative bolt-on, but it's not like its own game. So that would be the core of it, is just what is your group looking for in a game, but you have to ask them. Do you think we'll see new Cities of Sigmar human sculpts like Empire stuff this edition, seeing as how they have some focus on the Dawnbringer Crusades? I do. I like to think, honestly, that the Witch Hunters stuff that they've come out with has shown them enough success that they are willing to invest in it. Like, people still like this aesthetic. Because you had people clamoring still for the Cursed City heroes. You had, obviously, the Van Denst pair, the daddy-daughter, take your kid to work day kit. People just love it. It's just the best. It just feels like Warhammer. And so I do hope that they really reinvest in that. I don't know how many troop kits necessarily would be born of that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did an equivalent to Legions of Nagash turning into Soulblight Gravelords, for Cities of Sigmar turning into something else, Dawnbringer Crusades or something, where all of a sudden, this what used to be a mishmash of factions, it gets a little bit more cohesive and is reinvigorated with a few new kits like the Dire Wolves and all those kinds of things. So that would be my ultimate hope. Let's see. Hey, that guy, what's up? I've been building my Rivendell-inspired board for my Lord of the Rings army. Nice. Full honesty, when I was at Nova in 2019, the 2 coolest rooms, or sections I should say, because they were kind of giant rooms, they were all connected. The Horus Heresy stuff and the Lord of the Rings had the coolest boards and models, and everyone put so much work into them. It was awesome to see. I'll never forget that. Let's see. Jukari, Cabal of Dying Sun. Nice, that's great. I love their scheme. I think, right, that's an established one. Dying Sun sounds like an established one. Been working on my Cruel Boys, 60% done with the models from Dominion. Nice. Oh, thank you, Mark. Creature Caster has some Dragon Ogres, I believe. I knew it was one of those, but I'm not on their sites enough to know, my Reaper Miniatures Bones 5 came in. There's legit 3.5 feet ship that was in the Kickstarter with cannons and everything. That's awesome. Oh, I love it. Hello, anyone have a cool Trogguts list? I don't, but if you hit up the Rerolling Ones Facebook group. I know that Shu had fun with the Trog list recently that he had a great time with, so I don't know what he ran though. I spilled some Drakenhof Nightshade on my carpet. Anyone know how to get rid of it? Move. That's all I got. That is like one of the most intense washes that they make. It's right up there with like, I think the Caribou Crimson one is also one where I'm like, just the tiniest dot of it is so much color and pigment. Have you read the Broken Realms short story, The Scales of Victory? I have not yet. I have not. I've been having trouble keeping up with all the short stories they've been putting out. Been working on my first AOS army. Welcome, Mark. That's so awesome. Skaven in the same color scheme as my pet rats. That's cool. There's another user, and I'm not gonna drop her name because I didn't ask permission, but she also collects pet rats and likes to incorporate rat things into her armies. And that's cool. I love it. AOS Coach had a Trog General for last edition last year. He had a few lists on the show. Yeah, I guess he did, didn't he? Because I know he is a Gloomspite Gits player, but he has been kind of down on them since the new edition, because I think because of the nets and the modifiers and stuff. There's some specific thing there that I'm not familiar with every faction. Would you mind doing a Lord Croak video? Yeah, let me write that down. I just learned my lesson, and I keep a notepad and paper here just for things that you guys shout out. Lord. Okay. It's just me listing off all the places that he's been utterly OP in the lore. Question. Could I get away with a custom 4-legged Shaggeth the size of Kragnos? I mean, to your detriment, I suppose, because if you had something as big as Kragnos but still had the profile of a Shaggeth, he's going to get wrecked real hard because he's going to get attacked from everything from everywhere. Probably not at events. I mean, if you just like walked up to me on the street, we're like, hey Doug, you want to play a game? And this is my model. Can I use it as a shaman or Shaggeth? I'd be like, yeah, cool. But dang, he's big. He's big compared to a Dragon Ogre Shaggeth. Frankie the Shipwright, are we going to get any more Conquest videos? Those are really good. Well, thank you so much. Yes, this week I have the Nords Part 2 going up. I just recorded it last night. What else? And then, oh yes, so it's in part of our news section, but I did get in the new... Well, of course I can't find anything I'm looking for. It's here somewhere, but I got the new Conquest campaign book in, and I'm very excited to dig into that. I just wanted to basically get enough stuff for my Age of Sigmar Path to Glory so I can just kind of like play games and not have to worry about adding things to it. But the second that's done, I'm going to go back, switch heavy to Conquest, because I do love the system. So yeah, definitely coming up. I'm going to talk about the lore behind the Wadroon that's in there, which is stellar, and a few other factions. So yeah, stay tuned. Honestly, Croak's the only Seraphon thing you haven't covered. Yeah, it's true, isn't it? Because they kept having him as this weird background character for like the first book, right? If you guys remember the old Seraphon book, it was like, these are the Slann. Oh yeah, and there's this dead guy over here. And that's basically, he was like a side note. And you're like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do with that? But he's much more prominent now, and so I think that's great. There's actually stuff to talk about. The Zombie Man. I'm wanting to start making lore videos, but want to make them more like people sharing stories around a fire. What programs have you used for sound effects? Oh, that's interesting. That's a very interesting take. I like it. For sound effects, there's a website called Sound Bible that has audio effects that are... You can get them to be license free. I have a membership there. I like it quite a bit. But those are some of the big ones. What else? I mean, for most editing, I just use Audacity. It's free, it's cheap. I know there's probably better systems out there, but it's what I know. Question, I mean, I could use some of Kragnos' stats too. I mean, at that point, you're making your own destruction character, which I'm not opposed to playing, especially if you're just doing like fun games with your buds. Like I said, if you're going to an event, that's something that probably won't fly with most TOs. But for me, sure, that sounds cool. I mean, honestly, the way that they're described in the story, like, maybe not something quite the size of Kragnos, but something much larger than what the Dragon Ogre Shaggeth actually is, like in terms of models. Like, I could see him easily being like the size of maybe... what's a little bit bigger than that? The Spheranx, even the Manicore, Chimera, something like that. But Kragnos is like straight to the tippity top, the biggest thing out there. So that's funny that you went straight to there first. But do whatever. I mean, it sounds like a fun modeling opportunity. If you're asking me if I would have a problem with it, no. But I'm also like a super narrative gamer, so if that's what your group is, go for it. Also another question, I love your Conquest videos and AOS lore videos. Did you ever think about doing lore of other war games, like Hordes and War Machine, since those have underrated lore? Well, so I tried reaching out to the guys over at Privateer Press back actually when I lived in Seattle. There was a point in time where I lived 5 miles from the Privateer Press headquarters. And I tried numerous times and I was like, hey guys, listen, a lot of your books are out of print and that kind of stuff. If you help me and just give me some resources, whether that's digital copies or, you know, so I don't have to like chase everything down that they've done. I would love to do this for you. And nothing. They never wanted to respond. And I kind of had the same problem that I do with like Corvus Belli with Infinity, which is the company publishes their story in very, very hard to find books. Like this sub expansion campaign for 2nd edition is where we're going to put all of the story for this faction, and then we're going to discontinue that book almost immediately. And you're like, well, how is anyone supposed to know that? Like, honestly, I just had terrible time trying to find lore for Infinity, like physically find the information. So I was just like, bah. Pretty much is how that all went down. Let's see. Hey, can you do a video, faction versus faction, the mechanics behind who would win or lose maybe on the tabletop? Can you do a video, faction versus faction? I don't think I fully understand your vision there, CK Infinity, with your faction on faction thing. Question, so you're saying I could use the stats of a different monster for my custom Shaggeth at a tournament? No. No. What I'm saying is, if you want to create your own War Scroll, and use whatever model you want, and you have friends that are cool with that kind of thing, go for it. If you are looking to go to an event, definitely check with whoever's organizing it first, because I err on the side of they're probably going to say no. That's what I mean. But from a hobby modeling perspective, it sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, so we're going to move into games played here. Give it just a hot second. Doug, have you ever thought about writing your own fan fiction lore? Not really, to be honest with you. I'm actually quite terrible at 1, writing, and 2, being original. Like, I'm really not good at it. Appreciating stories and being able to craft them are 2 different, skills. I like to think, anyway. My skill set is not so much in storytelling or crafting, but in making things digestible, right? Like a teacher's brain, in terms of taking this big, crazy concept and breaking it down into chunks that are manageable. That kind of stuff. Whereas I don't know. Actually coming up with it is, again, a very different skill set. If not other war games, what about normal RPGs? Pathfinder, which has some batshit lore canonically. In the lore series, Earth exists and you fight Rasputin. I'm totally good with fighting Rasputin. I like that. We're going to talk about Warcry, Donald, in a little bit here. So, originality is overrated. Shakespeare basically stole everything he wrote. I like that one. Oh, man. Okay. So, wrapping up the hobby progress. Games played, I had 2 that I wanted to mention. The first one is, I talked about this in a hobby stream, but not so much the actual WYR forging. I played a game of Warcry for the first time in a long time. My buddy Rob asked if we wanted to play. He wanted to bust out his Night Haunt, and so we decided collectively to restart our campaigns. When we last played as part of our campaigns, it was still the last Tome of Champions, and so now we're using the current one, which is 2020. You know, we're restarting there and then crafting stories as we go along. So we had our first game in that campaign, and that went super well. It was neck and neck till the end. Essentially, it ended. It was one of those missions where, like, I had to kill his leader by the end of round 5, is what we changed it to. And my leader got punked real quick, real fast. A lot of my dudes died. And then a Chaos Warrior jumped up top of a building and did like a, I don't know, like a scene from the movie 300, leap downwards, took some wounds, but then ultimately crashed and was able to punk his leader just in the nick of time. We changed the mission from going to 4 turns to 5 because that's what a lot of the missions in the new Tome of Champions did. Because honestly, when you have reserves coming in on turn 3 and the game ends on turn 4, they don't often get a chance to do a lot. So, kind of extended out there. That might have affected results. Actually, it certainly did, because he would have won on turn 4. And I don't know how I feel about that one. But, so it's like a victory for me, but with an asterisk. But with that one, that's actually what motivated me to paint up my Marauders, or start working on my conversions, because I needed 3 of them for that warband. And then once I started going, I was like, well, I have the bits, I could just finish out the other 7, and so now I have my minimum sized squad. And the rest of my games have been digital. So this last week I played Total War Warhammer, and that was super fun. I'm trying out the Beastmen. I actually like the way that their faction works a lot more than I thought I would, because they're constantly in motion. Like, they don't claim territories just like everybody else does. So I feel like I'm always moving to the next fight, which is very fun. It's much more engaging than others. So I'm digging it. There's that. There is... I played some Underworlds, which I'm going to be doing more of. Part of the cool thing is when Robbie and I were playing Warcry, a local guy named Devin showed up, and he was actually organizing all of the organized play events for Underworlds before the pandemic. And so he is now looking to get back and doing that. I said I'm super excited. Like, I would love to do that, because the biggest problem I had in Seattle was finding games for it. So that's why I painted up Kagra's Ravagers first, you know, to fill out the unit of Chaos Warriors, but then also to have an Underworlds warband. I went on eBay and I grabbed, you know, like someone bought Dire Chasm just for the models and was selling off all the other junk. So I bought that from them, so now I have boards and tokens and all those kinds of things. So, yeah, I feel good about it. I like it. So I'm excited to jump in and start playing some Underworlds. Let's see. What else? That's all that I've got for gaming. I'm going to turn it over here. Any awesome game moments you want to chat about? Let's see. You don't have to come up with anything. You just do the GW method of copying endlessly, both from yourself and from other sources. Oh, man. I'm honestly surprised people still play War Machine Hordes. I thought the game was dead. It is in a weird place. It's in a very strange place where It's almost like the models have no value because so many people left the game that they're selling them for dirt cheap. But the people who play it really, really love it. And that's just cool. I mean, so in that sense, the game is not dead. They still have a dedicated fan base. But if that fan base is not actively spending money, I'm not sure what the future holds for them. Sorry, Mole Miner. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would just say it just depends on your local scene. I mean, you might have local guys who are super cool and are open to proxies and kit bashed rules. Certainly, honestly, how I would approach it if I were you is probably go to your regular game night and propose, hey, listen, why don't we each make heroes based off of the the Anvil of Apotheosis rules, where it's like you create your own custom hero, and that way, you know, at that point it doesn't really matter what model you use. You can use whatever. You're making a custom hero. That might be a good way, and then everybody gets a cool custom hero. They can be as dedicated to a singular vision as you are, but or not, whatever. I think a lot of those original short missions got FAQ'd to fix the length. Yeah, a lot of them did. Now that's a warrior worthy of a demon prince. Yeah, he was cool. He was what? I think it was this exact guy right now, because he was definitely wielding two hand weapons. Everybody else in my warband had the shield for the extra toughness. I was playing against Night Haunt, so the toughness really actually did matter. But this guy went like just leaping and bounding off of a wall and was just like, "Get wrecked, nerd!" and took out a ghost lord. I feel the hobby dies when the community dies. That's true. The game can live on post FAQs and the like if people are dedicated. Exactly, yeah. I mean, Necromunda never died. It stopped being supported for a decade. But, yeah. Questions. Have you ever considered doing lore on real-world mythology? Greek, Norse, blah, blah, blah. I think your style would make it really interesting. Oh, like, actually do, like historical? Like, this is the mythology of the Greeks or something like that? I haven't. I've considered true crime and like unsolved mystery stuff, but never those kinds of things. I don't know. Doug, do you think the Thunderstrike models will appear in current or a future Warcry? I imagine that they will, once the battle tomes drop, I imagine that they will, in that White Dwarf, have Warcry rules for them. That's what they did with the Lumineth. I have that issue laying around. Once the second battle tome dropped, they were like, oh, BT dubs, here's a whole bunch of rules for you, and so it's there if you want it. Vampire Council did the same thing. They put that on the community page. Yeah, I could see that. And, yeah. As far as the future of Warcry, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but that's about it. That's about all I got. Okay, I'm going to move into news. We actually have a bunch of cool stuff to chat about this week. I have a very special thing I want to start with. So, on August 1st, same time, 10 o'clock my time, so half an hour ago from when I started this today, I'm going to be doing a charity stream. For 6 hours, I'm going to be hanging out, chatting with y'all. I'm going to bust open some battle tomes. I'm going to read stories with you, and we're going to chat about why I think they're cool. I can give you some insight into my process and all that kind of stuff. The reason that I'm doing this charity stream is for this charity. This is Write Your Life, and essentially what it is, the nonprofit organization that my uncle-in-law, who is a very accomplished writer and educator, is trying to put together, where they go to underprivileged areas in Tennessee specifically, but they're using this as sort of like a demo for a larger program. They go into underprivileged areas, and instead of just giving money or those kinds of things, they take students who struggle to write and basically walk them through how to turn their hardship stories into college admission essays. So it's equipping people for a very tangible, specific task and I think it's fantastic. Let's see here. So by the conclusion of the workshop, students will have increased confidence in their writing skills, learn transferable skills, considered college as a realistic goal, and completed a singular, well-crafted, compelling essay for their college admission application. So I don't know. It's one of those things. They did a pilot of it last year, and the need was so great simply because of all the things happening with lockdown and kids not getting the same amount of educational quality as they had before, on top of being in some of the most hard-stricken areas of our country here in the U.S. So I'm very excited about it, very passionate about it. I would love to see this go to fruition. So that's what we're going to be doing. Have a bit of a live stream, try to raise some money. You can donate here. I have the link in the description down below in this video if you want to get a head start, but any proceeds that are raised during that live stream will go directly to Write Your Life. So I don't know. Would love to be able to contribute in a meaningful way. You know, we spend so much time talking about stories here on this channel, and I would love to help some people write their own out in a way that helps them improve their lives. So that's kind of my thought there, and why I chose this specifically over all the different stuff that's in the world. Essentially what the money goes for is school supplies. It's a bunch of kids who can't be expected to have access to certain computer software and just writing supplies, notebooks, that kind of stuff, printing off a whole bunch of documents for them. So yeah, that's where all that goes to. And the goal is only 12K, which is very minimal. It's not like I'm trying to raise $1 million to cure cancer or something like that. But yeah, so I wanted to put that up there on the front end of my news segment just because it's important to me. And again, August 1st, that's when it's going to be going on. So we'll move on here. I'm just going to go kind of in order of stuff that interests me. So here we go. Let's see. We got 40K Battle Sector puts the fate of Baal in your hands. I do pronounce that Baal, not Ball. Let's see. We got some cool screenshots. Now, this is from the same guys who made, what is it? Battle Sector, 40K Gladius, Relics of War, Armageddon, and Sanctus Reach. Have any of you guys played those games? Like, I know it's turn-based, which does interest me. I'm not a big fan of, like, real-time strategy. But, CK, we're not going to talk about politics. That's not what we're doing here. We're talking about how to help people and do what we can. But, yeah. Wargamer Willie, oh, thank you so much, buddy. You're really a true friend. Can't wait to get home from work and hang out. You amazing graded. Such appreciated. Thank you so much. That's so appreciated. I really do appreciate it. The game looks pretty. I mean, they got some cool models. They definitely upgraded this with sort of the more current, Space Marine sculpts in mind. The screenshots. What do they got? That seems like a cool shot. I like the scale. For some reason, I thought it was a much smaller scale. Like you were picking one dude to move like square by square, but this looks more like a unit thing. Cool. I might check that out. I'm always interested in video games, just to see what stuff looks like in motion, basically. And then we come upon a stunning new Warhammer Age of Sigmar scenery set. Man, I am excited for this. So, this is a picture of the Dawnbringer Crusades. It's square by square, but it's units moving. Thank you, Luis. Let's see. Got an Age of Sigmar. Good game. Yeah, I agree with you, Frankie. So, if you hadn't seen my video on it, when a crusade, Dawnbringer Crusade, leaves a city, they essentially carry everything they need on these giant floating islands. And when they get there, they start building. The first thing that they build is this. This is essentially a magical reservoir that they put on top of an important set of ley lines, or I'm gonna go full nerd and quote GW here. areas of intense geomantic power. And so just set this up, and it basically siphons it from the ground. Now they have power, okay? At the same time, they surround the city with these things. These are statues. Now, they look like plain statues and stuff like that. Craft additional pylons, exactly. So they look like normal statues, but they're actually part of a web. A full city settlement will be encircled by a bunch of these statues, and the power is pulled from the siphon and it goes straight to this, and that barrier, that ring that they form, is meant to keep out anything like ethereal. So like you have Night Haunt, demons, magical attacks, anything like that. So the idea is that it's meant to add their first layer of protection, something that walls wouldn't really protect against, and then they build the walls around where that ring is. And of course you can see them actively building walls right there with the rest of the terrain set. We have the Realmscape expansion set is what I'm reading. Realmscape expansion set. Yes, honestly, I'm hoping that this has rules for Warcry as well, if I'm totally honest with you. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that mentions Warcry. I would love it. I would love it if there was some way to like topple these things or sabotage them or mess with the rigging so it does wounds to someone nearby. Yeah, let's take a look at that big picture that had all of it. So it comes in the newest set. The Harbinger? No, not the Harbinger. Maybe. I don't know. But one of the new sets, you essentially get 2 of these structured buildings and the big node, and I believe 2 of these statues. I think I saw. Yeah, at least in one of the sets there was the big statue, 2 of them. Right? Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, that's what you get in the Realmscape expansion thing. So I think it looks awesome. It is certainly terrain that represents a core thing from the lore, right? They've established that this is a big deal going into 3rd edition when settling the lands has become important, and so having terrain that matches that, and I'll be honest, I'm so happy to see something that's not a frickin' ruin. Like, we spend all this time talking about like chaos and stuff invading cities, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, I can represent that with this Reagan era Wildwood tree set, or I can use the Dreadfort that's no longer in print but isn't an order type looking building. So anyway, I'm just glad we have some more terrain options, to be honest with you. I wish Warhammer Underworld's guys were usable in the base game as some sort of special unit. Would help fill the gaps in armies that don't get a ton of models. You can use them. If you go to the sales page for literally any Underworld's warband, they all have rules to be used in the game in AOS. Hey Chris, what's up, buddy? So we are taking a look here at the Turn Duinclaw into the Ultimate Killer Crustacean in Arena Mortis. This is an article that just dropped today. And if you don't know, Arena Mortis is basically a multiplayer tournament. It's like Hunger Games for Underworlds, where everybody picks a warrior and they just kind of go head to head with everybody else. And so this is the Crab Meta Tactica, where they're basically, the one warrior they picked was Crab Boy, and threw him into the arena by himself. So they have all kinds of cool, they show off his abilities, and they just kind of give you some ideas for like, how can you actually make this guy super fun? This is 100% a meme article, and I'm here for every second of it. I love it. And they're just kind of walking through some of the basic cards and that kind of stuff that I don't know if they come specifically in this set, if the Arena Mortis set. I'll be honest, I'm just getting into Underworlds and I'm having trouble understanding the Arena Mortis stuff. Like, is it its own thing? Can I grab it and use some of these cards, or use any cards that come in it in the normal game? I'm a little bit perplexed by that, but I like it quite a bit. I like the idea of it, right? Of just, if you have an odd number of people, boom, scrub. Can't wait for Crab Race in Total War Warhammer 3. Let's see. Dew and Claw will beat all the Chaos Gods and then choke slam Gotrek. Confirmed. I love it. That would be amazing. Just painting some more Hedonites. How are the slaves coming? They are very good. Reviewed them a little bit earlier. I got enough done to fill up my 5-man unit of Chaos Warriors to 10. And then I'm working on Marauders at the moment. I'm going to be doing that later today as well when we get into the main topic. Sorry, I had a brain fart there for a second. And then we actually have an actual article about Arena Mortis. Let's see, what's in the box? Contains a double-sided game board that you can also use in games of Underworlds, as well as 20 Universal Gambit cards, 20 Universal Upgrade cards, but you'll also get your hands on the Arena Mortis rulebook. Okay, so it's like its own thing, but it's also, it does have some stuff, some cards that anyone can use. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not super tempted by this, but maybe. I mean, if I show up to my local guys who are doing Underworld stuff and they're all super into it, I would jump in. Like, it's a fun concept. It just doesn't seem like a format that, I don't know. Do a lot of people play this? I guess I haven't really seen it. So let's see. It's weird seeing Crab Boy receiving more love than Slanesh, the crab god. Yeah, but Slanesh isn't full crab, right? Dew and Claw is full. He went full crab. And we're going to talk more about Kill Team, which is a game variant that I'm becoming more excited for every single day, like straight up. Basically, they're going to drop a Kill Team compendium, which looks like it'll have rules for just about every single Kill Team out there. And they kind of give us some nice little previews of the different and various types of units that'll be out there. So we can kind of start to get a sense of their speed differences and how they can do stuff, their action economy, because custodian guards, they are going to be very, very few in the game, but they'll be able to have a lot of action points so they can do more stuff. So that's a cool balancing act there. We have a terrific looking scene here. I love this shot. Just like the rust effects on all the metals and junk and the color choices. We got some Chaos Warriors about to smash headlong into Sisters of Battle. I'm trying to figure out what these... That's an Arcoflagellant. Okay, so that would be a Sisters of Battle unit. This guy, I can't quite make out what he is. Or she. But yeah, no, I love it. I'm here for it. It looks more and more like they are trying to make the game function like Warcry, which I am 1000% for, because I like Warcry quite a bit. It looks like they kind of went the other way on some choices in terms of, so in Warcry there is strength and toughness. In this, from what I've seen, there's not so much strength and toughness as there are saves, which there are not in Warcry. So they kind of went the other direction in terms of what you're rolling for. But I'm totally okay with that. I love it. It makes the games different, but I do feel like they, you know, they're two branches that share the same tree, and I like that quite a bit. And I'm just going to kind of burn through this. This is just how you can put your roster together. Let's see, I know there's still going to be specialisms, which is like how they do all their cool, crazy stuff. Like super special abilities, make a guy a bomb expert and that kind of thing. Oh wow, thank you so much, Mole Miner. This is for the charity stream in advance in case I can't make it to the actual stream. The case behind it means a lot to me personally. Scroll back in the chat if you want to know why. I did see that, buddy. Thank you so much. That means the world to me. I will go ahead and throw that in the donation thing. If you want to donate in advance, obviously you can donate here just like Mole Miner did, or I do have the link in the description down below. If you wouldn't mind doing that, it would mean the absolute world to me. Let's see. Meet the powerful, cruel boy Shaman, who's best mates with Kragnos, or so he claims. Now, This model. My god, this model, I love it so much. First of all, this continues the trend of me not super caring for most of the Cruel Boys things, but being absolutely to the gills in love with specific models. I love this thing. I have every intention of getting one and converting it to a Chaos Sorcerer Lord on Manticore thing. I mean, I want to keep the Vulture exactly the same. Like, not a single thing changes. I think he's on a pretty much appropriate base, actually. If you just turn him to the side, he'll be in the long ways like the Manticore is. And it looks like there's enough real estate that that's plenty possible to do. So that's where I'm going with it. The first time I saw this guy, I was like, oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes, 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 yes. As far as what he actually does for the army, I love that he has a Lord of Change's hand up here, by the way. He is a named... Right? He's a named guy? Yeah, Gobsprak, the Mouth of Mork. I like it quite a bit. Spooky Thin Orc on a Vulture, I love him. An Orc being a Duolingo translator for Kragnos is pretty golden. I know, yeah, it's pretty fun. So there's this version of the kit, which is cool. Ooh, I'm using it as a general on Griffin for cities. Nice, that would be cool, yeah. And it wouldn't take much to make him just look absolutely regal as heck, but still menacing. So we got this, and then if we scroll down, we have the alternate build, which is a Killaboss, so a more traditional melee hero. And his little vulture boy has a helmet, and I can't decide, like, normally it's like, do I want the helmet, do I not? I love both sculpts equally. Like, this would be my Chaos Lord on a Manticore, the other one would be the Chaos Shaman. Like, I love this helmet a lot. It actually reminds me of, was it the old Azhag model? Where it was like that super derpy AF dragon. Let's see, Azhag. I must be thinking of a different sculpt, but something like this. I just want the picture. Yeah. I can't really blow it up too much, but it's a dragon, but it has like these very, very large, pronounced horns coming out of the side. I'm here for it. Here for every inch of it. The line between goofy and kind of fun is a thin one. Exactly, yes. Yep. Yes. That is a thing that I have always appreciated about Warhammer, and something I think sometimes is the reason I don't care for 40k, where like I feel like some of this stuff is so ludicrously over the top that we're intended to laugh. But if you don't laugh at it, it's just this weird, dark thing, and that's where you get some people who are a little bit confused about maybe this is not a way of life or a political ideology. I'm just going to throw that out there and just leave it where it lie. But yes, no, goofiness is part of the point. Goofiness mixed with like this, like, ugh, where it still incites a feeling inside of you. But yeah. Folks take 40k more seriously. Agreed. Yeah, and that brings us... I'm going to pause here on this guy, because the last article is talking about the old world, and that's actually going to be my main topic for today. So I'm going to pause here. What do you guys think of the news? Is there anything specific that popped out to you that you're like, holy smokes, I love it? For me, like I said, this guy, absolutely going to be a part of my warband. He's going to be my Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Manticore, and I'm excited about that. So, although, I don't know, because I already have a Chaos Sorcerer Lord on Manticore, and I don't have a Chaos Lord on Manticore, so maybe I should do that one first. That would actually make a fair bit of sense. Let's see. We're just going to start doing some skin tones on these dudes. Any Cruel Boys news is good news. There you go. I want the chicken. I need the chicken. Yes, I do like him. I like him quite a bit. All right, let's go. And I'm actually going to read this article rather than just highlighting it, because that's part of the jam here. So we got Andy Hoare working on it, who is, from all I can find, a pretty awesome guy. Work is continuing apace on Warhammer: The Old World project, and while much of it remains cloaked in a veil of secrecy for now, we can share the latest on the ever-evolving map of the world in which the game is set. Now, the things that, to my understanding, we know about the game system, before we go much further, is that it is set a couple hundred years before the events of the end times. And therefore, there are some new opportunities for storytelling that they've given themselves, which is fantastic. Really appreciate that. We'll take a look at this map here. So I am woefully ignorant about the old world. Can someone, I'm just going to leave the picture there for a little bit. Can someone point out anything of particular note or interest about this map? Like, is it showing us anything that we didn't know before? I'll let that hang there, just as a question. But so right now, my thoughts on the old world as a game set, or as a setting, I mean. For me personally, I did get into fantasy battles before it turned into AOS. I only played for, I don't know, maybe like 8 months or so, 6 to 8 months, before they sunsetted that game and then brought out AOS. And, you know, at that point I was like, well, I still got my miniatures, I'm on board, let's see where this goes. And because of that, I never really developed much of an attachment to the old world that I know some other people definitely did. And so, I don't know, I just wasn't really upset. I didn't really understand why people were upset. The only book series I read for the old world at the time, well, let's see, I read the Sundering series, so regarding High Elves, because that's the faction I was playing. But that's really about it. I did pick up End Times Thankful because it just looked so awesome. Like, just as a book and a publication, it just looked cool. I still love the story, the Bell Tolls for Nuln. Still one of my favorite combat stories, I guess, like in terms of tales of battle. I think that still holds up. But I'm very interested to know. Let me see here. Where Kislev is going to be. A few dwarf holds, and where they plan to put beastmen. Okay. Kislev has expanded over the mountain boundaries. The Empire is split in 3, Civil War-wise, compared to the usual... okay, cool. So there is a little... There's some meaningful information there. Good. It's one of those things, like, I didn't want to just say, like, and this is the map, and it's fine. And people will be like, what the heck, you missed X, Y, Z? How could you blah, blah, blah? And it's just whatever. Now, as far as actually playing the system, I've been thinking about that a lot, actually. Ever since they announced it, people have definitely been hitting me up with questions like, hey, are you going to cover this? Because it's not AOS, and is it in your wheelhouse, that kind of thing. The biggest thing to me is I just want the game to be fun, right? I mean, as much as I enjoyed, you know, I mean, I obviously enjoyed fantasy battles enough to get into it, you know, which, quite frankly, at the end there in its last incarnation was no small ask, as I'm sure many of us can understand, with how many models were being moved around and all this kinds of stuff. Units were massive, the game was... I'm going to say unwieldy a bit when it comes to balance and having time for everything. I apologize, I'm also doing details on some marauders over here on my end. So, like, I'm into it, you know, and obviously I'm not opposed to rank and flank bases. I play Conquest, which I think is a fantastic game. But there are some things that I didn't care for about it that I would love to see updated. So, for example... I would absolutely love it if they made movement less miserable. I don't know any other word for it. I just felt like there were so many things. Like, the game wasn't about armies clashing, it was about who's better at doing their wheels, you know, and lining up the charges and blocking out sides. And I get that as a game focus, but I just never felt like, ah, yes, I am recreating the stories of a grand, you know, fictional universe and that kind of stuff. Whereas AOS, I do. Like, when a battle is epic in AOS, it feels like a cool storytelling moment. Whereas I felt like those moments were fewer and far between when it came to when I was playing my high elves in fantasy battles. It was just sort of this weird thing where it's like the game feels like movement phase the game rather than Warhammer. So I would love for movement to be simplified and streamlined as much as humanly possible. Scroll down here. Okay. Oh, they're talking about Kislev. So now we have some cool factor fiction stuff. Bases, square around. Definitely square. So they are doing the rank and flank thing. That's cool. Scale. The scale will remain the same as it ever was. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit disappointed in that. Did the music just get super loud? Did it? Okay. I'll keep an eye on it, but I didn't notice anything. So as far as the scale goes, the reason I say I'm a little bit disappointed is because I was honestly hoping for something closer to a game that they had a long time ago called War Master, which was essentially a much smaller scale thing. And the reason I wanted that is because I feel like the kinds of armies that were talked about in fantasy battles, just they couldn't be fully represented on the table without owning, like, you know, 300 models a piece. And so I felt like when you look at games like Total War Warhammer, I feel that is a much better representation of the armies of these factions from the old world clashing than whatever I could put on the table. And so I was kind of hoping, like, well, if we expand the scale just a little bit to make everything smaller, and then you could have like full rows of dudes, all of a sudden the battles would look much more momentous and important, and I think that would have a lot of value in it. But that is a-okay. I know that there's a lot of folks who are hoping to use their old Warhammer minis in an effort to play this game as well. And to that I say, I wish you well. Be expecting to buy stuff. Like, at the end of the day, they still need to make money, so there will be things that they're asking you to buy. Just kind of keep that in the back of your head, never forget it, and don't be offended when it happens. That's about the best thing I can offer there. Let's see. Anthony Luo, is the tabletop crowd hyped for Cathay being fleshed out? I don't know. Like, honestly, I'm not super connected to the folks who are really excited for the old world. I'm excited for the setting, and that's about it. Like, honestly, I don't have any special preference of rank and flank over round bases with free movement. I don't know. I guess some folks would definitely know more about Cathay than I do. Like I said, I only came in at the end, and my understanding is they never really had a faction before. In terms of like playable rules and that kind of stuff. I mean, they did for a little bit. It was like an expansion thing, but not in the same way as some other stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what the I don't have my finger on the pulse as it was when it comes to the fan base for the old world, which has yet to exist. Well, I mean, the old world exists, but you know what I mean. Okay, just putting on some different colors here for my gnarly looking marauders. I'm just working on them in the background. We'll keep going here with the discussion on the old world. As far as the rules, totally new or 8th edition? Both, which is interesting. We played every single edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battles over the years, and like every player, we have our favorite bits from each. Warhammer The Old World will gather up all of our favorite mechanics from the 3rd edition to the 8th edition, and add new elements where needed to create something deeply familiar and freshly new. Sorry, I had a hiccup there. I'm into it. I think that sounds like as good of an answer as anyone's liable to get. You know, I've thought about this. Will I buy into it? Well, certainly, I can tell you this. If they send me something, I will paint and play it. Straight up. Am I going to go like super far out of my way and bend over backwards to build the old world army? I don't know. You know, it depends on a few things. It depends on the models. It depends on how they're supporting the game. In terms of, like, is this going to be... What I don't want is for it to be like Forge World, where it just... Not Forge World. Horus Heresy, where it's like, yeah, they release stuff, but it's hard to get a hold of. It might be limited time. Who knows if it's going to be around for a while. The game system probably needs some updates that's not getting, you know, it's just anything that's not AOS or 40K just has such a strange life cycle in the Games Workshop world. I don't understand. It just seems like some things will go forever without being touched, and all of a sudden they're the coolest thing ever again. And I don't know. That's a hard one for me to answer. Just because I feel like so much of the time they already have so many cool things that they theoretically support, but it doesn't feel like it. So I don't know. That one's a little bit different. What do you guys think? Let me ask that question up top. Who amongst us here will be getting into the old world? Like, I'm definitely going to cover it like from a lore perspective. I like the setting. I don't feel like I was really introduced to it until I started playing Vermintide, actually. Like, in Vermintide, when they actually let you, like, run around the cities and stuff like that, that's when I was like, oh, this is a really cool place. And I wanted to learn more about all the different cities and stuff that they were mentioning, and the different book series that were sort of alluded to, and it helped a lot. I absolutely will. Right on, right on. They're going back to orcs. I don't know why that was necessarily a point of contention, but apparently it was to some people. Okay. I feel like this one was included specifically for some turds that were like, Games Workshop's just trying to copyright everything. And they're like, fine. Does it matter to you to say orcs? Sure. Okay. Cool. And that's the entire point of this part of the article. Call them whatever you want. We don't care. You shouldn't either, but here we all are. And then setting. What about the world's ending? It's going to be set several hundred years before the end times. And so I like that quite a bit. At this point, I think it has a good combination of opening things for them to do in terms of storytelling elements, like a little bit more freedom. They're not bound by the same things that would have happened, immediately before the end times. I think that was a smart call. But whether or not they're going to like use that as a full opportunity to craft all kinds of cool, crazy things. I don't know. I'd like that they did. That would be cool. But at least giving itself some distance from the old world. Like, they don't have to like live up to the nostalgia that everybody has, because that would just be a recipe for disaster. But what else? Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the article. But I want to pause there. What do you guys think? Because, like, I'm sort of two minds about it. On one, it's very clear to me that with the success of Total War and those kinds of stuff, there is just a deep love for the intellectual property surrounding the old world. I mean, that was always obvious. Like, that was obvious when they nuked it. I'm not quite sure who gave that order, but whatever. But on the flip side, it's like, how much of that carries over if you go back to the old world and set it super, super far in the past so that the same things aren't around. The same characters, the same stories, that kind of stuff. As far as the square bases go, I don't have a problem with square bases. Like I said, I play Conquest. We rank and flank there too. The only thing that I hope for the bases, and this is my own opinion, I hope that they are different sizes. Like, Games Workshop has improved so much when it comes to their modeling. Let me give you a good example here. If you look to the downward cam, and get these marauders out of the way. This is a Chaos Warrior from back in the day when you had to fit on a 30-something millimeter square. And then we got cool guys like... I guess I don't have a full example. There's one in the start collecting box where he's like full-blown lunging. Yeah, this guy. Where he's in an action pose, but he takes up more space physically on the base than this one. But if you're ranking them up tightly, this is the way to go. If you make the bases just an inch, like not an inch, but a little bit bigger, you can maintain kick-ass models like this, right? So, in my opinion, I think the bases need to grow a little bit to reflect the fact that they've now created an industry worth of models that are way the F cooler than they were back then. You know, and also I think that has the added benefit of putting models first, right? Because even if someone's only passively interested in the old world as a setting, the models can still absolutely hook people, and they do all the time, like me, a fool. Let's see. 100% expected to be like Horus Heresy. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I don't. It's just, the more niche that you make stuff, the harder it is to get people in and involved, and the more, I guess, isolated that community can become. And that's not something I'm super into, because that's where you get crappy folks who come in and just kind of take over the feeling of the group. And honestly, like, it's the main reason that I am not in any old world Facebook groups, is because the experiences I've had, you know, and they're just fan groups that are people who are getting excited for the game, right? That's the idea. None of us have any details yet besides this article, but already being like, well, if they don't do this, then I'm gonna be pissed. It's like, well, that's the wrong approach. I don't know what to tell you. It sounds like you just want to be mad, but okay, sure. Yeah, and I just have no patience for that kind of stuff, you know, as far as like, well, if it's not what I want, then it must be garbage. It's like, well, I feel like they destroyed the entire game to get rid of folks like that, so whatever you want to do. Could replace Horus Heresy on Forge World? Yeah, I don't know. I remember hearing like a while ago that, like, I thought Forge World was going to be brought into the G-Dubs umbrella a bit more. I don't understand that business model at all. I mean, there's so many things about Games Workshop from a if we stop thinking about it as our hobby and just think about it as a corporation, I just don't get. I don't get why they think X is a good idea. I'm a nerd I love data, so I would love to see some of the information behind their decision making. Not to like expose them or any of that, but just to see, because I'm curious. Like, oh, is there something about this hobby and the people who enjoy it that I am just totally oblivious to? Like, sometimes you'd be surprised by this kind of stuff that numbers reveal to you. Which is why I'm surprised they don't do the great big surveys anymore. Because I actually like that idea. Now I have to go to Vince Ventrella for all my survey needs. He does great all surveys and breaks the information down super well. Let's see. I don't think Horus Heresy is going plastic. They make plastic box set every now and then, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't get it. Because they'll oscillate between plastic stuff and resin. And then they just came out with more stuff for Horus Heresy, but I've never seen Horus Heresy played in the wild. I've only ever seen it as like a vacation game for gentlemen over the age of 40 to go to like conventions and they play Horus Heresy, which is awesome. But that is literally the full extent of experience I've had with Horus Heresy. Is just specifically at conventions, and it's always like older gentlemen. And I think part of that also is just because modeling and that kind of stuff is just such a bigger part of that. It's future history, wargaming type stuff. And I think that just attracts a very specific crowd of people. Power gamers who go into that circle tend to not do super well. Hey, we're still going to play the Lord of the Rings game? Yeah, that's another one that I just don't see a lot. Although I do have a few people who play locally. I just learned about that. One of the guys who plays Warcry and Underworlds, he is really into Lord of the Rings, and so I have a set. I got it right before I left Seattle. But now I'm just like, do I want to learn another game system? I don't know. I feel like I'm so busy being not great at so many others. I don't need to stack another one on top. Oh man. I've seen Horus Heresy played at the local game store, and we're a much smaller town than Seattle is. It's more of a money thing. Interesting. Okay. I could see that. It does have a high buy-in. Especially if you're someone who is really into it, right? The people who are really into Horus Heresy, like they got all the campaign books, they know all the stuff back and forth. Each one of them is a general patent of their own little slice of the Warhammer universe, and that's so cool. Let's see. So, I don't know. I don't want it to be... It's tough to say, like, I don't want it to be... It's a very isolated little game. If they're going to do it big and make sure that everybody has access to it very, very easily, and that it's a front center project type thing. But I also know that's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask to be like, yo, you know that IP blew up? Put it everywhere. And then also still support 40K and AOS. Which honestly is another angle. I had someone ask, like, or do you think they're gonna sunset Age of Sigmar? I'm like, no. Why do they need to do that? I'm not sure what part of adding a new product they do. But I understand people just having a lot of confusion when it comes to what they're doing. Again, like I said, I've just some of the decisions they make as a corporation, I just scratch my head. I'm like, I don't understand. Give me 1 second, I'm just picking this guy's beard out with some paint. Feels like that either old world will be neglected or everything else will be neglected. My honest fear, what I think will probably happen, is that it'll come out and it'll dominate the news and the airwaves and everything for about a month and a half. And then it'll kind of go into that special cooling off period that every Games Workshop game seems to do, where then it just becomes a matter of like, yeah, we have, you know, White Dwarf articles here and there, and well, every once in a while we'll throw out a model kit or something, just like they do with Horus Heresy. Like they just release a hero, you know, like there's an article out there right now. Singular hero, he's cool. I like him. You know, it's not game changing, but, or at least I don't know if he is actually. That might actually be a thing. Here we go, Xandra Dust. But yeah. Also wasn't here for a bit, but the article mentions centaurs and half-orcs, which actually were in a Warhammer 2nd edition. Like actual centaurs, not centaurs. What's the difference between a centaur and a centaur? I thought it was just like a naming convention thing. Or do you mean like that they're like big bad hero boys? It's the longest game of necromancy I've ever seen. I like that one. Yeah, it totally is. I guess, you know, I mean, this article, I will give credit. This article is much better than the other ones they put forward. I really don't like articles where no actual information is given. Right, like the first several articles we had for the old world was, yeah, we're working on it, and it's like, yeah, but that's not helpful, because then you got people who are doomsayers about everything, and if it's not like this, we rebel, and it's like, well, that's not how you get your way in the adult world. And then on the other hand, it's also leaving plenty of room for those folks to take control of the conversation when it comes to what the game should be, not what you're working on. You know, in the article is like, what's this nonsense with different scales? Of course it's going to be the same scale. It's like, well, you didn't say that, so what do you mean no nonsense? What do you mean people come up with conjecture if we don't put any actual information in their hands? Who would do such a thing? It's like, have you seen the world? Hi, I'm Earth. You may remember me from such catastrophes as Chernobyl and many atrocities against mankind. I don't know why Chernobyl was the first thing I went to. Kind of scratching my head on that one. But let's see. Anyway, so I have a lot of hope for it. I'll be honest, like, I guess what I'm most concerned about is bad actors coming back. You know, when I was first starting out on the YouTube channel, there was just a lot of people who were real mean for no reason other than Games Workshop took away something that they loved. And part of my hesitation with the old world has always been, how much do we cater to folks who were acting like that, acting a fool, back when all this stuff got nuked. And you know, what is going, because there's going to be things that they like, things that they hate. And so the question is, What are going to be the things that they don't like? What are they going to have to buy? What are they going to yell about? What are, you know what I mean? All those kinds of things. Someone in our private group I'm a part of asked, like, do you think that guy who burned his army feels silly? And I was like, I bet not. I bet not. He probably got enough money from all the watch time and that kind of stuff that he probably bought a second one and didn't care. Okay, got these guys good and blocked out at least. So now I gotta wait for them to dry just a smidge and I can throw some washes on. Let's take a look at the chat here. What if GW is just taking the 9th Age rules set and rewriting it? Well, the guys who wrote 9th Age don't have any... I mean, it's a piece of fan work, right? I mean, they don't have a claim on it. They didn't design the game from the ground up. They modified 8th edition. So I guess my point is... Sure. I mean, I've never played it. I never played 9th. When Fantasy Battles ended and I could tell that AOS needed some time to percolate, if you will, instead of waiting for that, I went straight into Kings of War. I was really interested in that game. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I still kind of am, you know? Hey, if there's anyone at Mantic listening, what's up? Holla at your boy. But that's about it, you know? And then, obviously, I like... rank and flank games like Conquest, that kind of stuff. Played a bunch of stuff. I don't know. There are probably going to be guys that burn their armies who will complain that they have to buy new armies. Of course, yeah. I've said this multiple times. Games Workshop could put a $20 bill into every package of models they sell, and somebody would complain about how they folded it. Like... That it's just an inescapable part of reality. Grass grows, wind blows, people whine. Here, the weird thing about tabletop games is you can't copyright the rules, just their exact wording. I don't know anything about that kind of law. I will be honest with you. That's why I hesitated when I said, like, you know, I don't know if 9th Age just was technically a fan creation, in which case they have no rights to it. But I mean, at that point you'd be asking the guys who threw together 9th Age to put together a legal defense. And I think that might be a tall order. Right? I mean, at the end of the day, there's what you know and what you can prove. So, if in a court of law, the judge looks at Games Workshop and their history of games and knowing that 9th Age was heavily based off the design ideas from Games Workshop, no judge is going to be like, yeah, I think you guys got this, right? I mean, unless there's something super glaring, like they just forget a typo and leave. These rules were designed by the 9th Age team, you know? I think any judge is going to be like, Games Workshop wins. Let's see. Sad how things ended, but you got to move on. Plus, you couldn't really judge lore-wise. The 8th edition was a 25-year-old game. To seed a new one. Yeah, I mean... I don't know. Yeah. It's a tough one. I'll admit. There's not really a nice answer to how... I think it was a disastrous product launch. I think it's in a good place now. I love AOS, but I get some of the hostility, I do. Let's see. One sec here. Ogre Kingdoms, Ogre Cons. Name changes are mostly what happens. Okay. Sure. Oh, man. Yeah, no, there was a whole bunch of those fan made projects that came out of that, and it's one of those things, like, if I'm gonna hitch my horse to something, so to speak, I want it to have a bit more staying power than some of the fan things that I was seeing out there, because a lot of it, they were already fighting amongst themselves before, like, for comp and stuff like that, before Fantasy Battles ever even went away. I was like, well, I didn't want to be a dog in that fight, and I certainly don't want to have a dog in this one when it comes to redesigning an entire game that nobody, in theory, should be making money off of because it's a fan-run thing. And that was basically all I had for it, you know, at the time. Okay. Now we are ready for everything to dry. Again, we are in the ugly phase of painting these guys up. I'll go to the downward cam here. So I have basically I took the ones that have darker skin and just did a quick highlight. This guy's got some green on the tentacle bits. Now with this scheme that I'm doing for my kind of Carnival of Chaos looking style, everything starts very light and then I just keep doing many layers of thinned out washes to turn it into the tones that I like. So they're not going to be this yellow, they're not going to, you know what I mean, that kind of stuff. So I'm not super worried about any of that. I think they're gonna turn out pretty well, I'm thinking. So the nice thing is, because I used the Poxwalkers, a lot of their stuff is just covered in boils, so I'm going to do all the washes and then go back and like pick out the little pimples and stuff, and so that'll actually add a lot more detail than what you kind of see here. But yeah. Can you turn up your mic volume? It's a little bit far from my face. That's why I don't typically do a ton of stuff here while I'm painting. Hobby streams are a bit hard for me, because I don't want to be like straight up screaming into my microphone. Oh, sure. Yeah, I can go to the downward cam. Unfortunately, there's going to be a bit more light than you could probably make out usefully for, just because I have to be able to see the details and junk. But yeah. Now, as far as like what they could do with the old world as far as storytelling goes, I'm very interested. Like, I do think there's a lot of cool things that happened in the old world that are definitely worth learning about. I mean, I guess someone who knows more about that time period can probably answer this better than me, but does anybody know of any like major historical events that happened, you know, hundreds of years before the setting? Like, I know there would have been, well, like the Battle of the Beards for the dwarves. There would have been, because I mean, I know some of that stuff from the elven side of things, because of, like I said, I played, or I read the Sundering series, which did cover quite a bit of High Elf and Dark Elf lore, respectively, before the split. Hey, popping in from Iowa, heading to Minnesota for a doctor's appointment. Hey, Murphy, I'm in Iowa too. Where you at, bud? Let's see. If you became a Chaos God, what would you preside over? Army swapping? I am the god of indecision. It's like, isn't that kind of like Zinch? Nope, not at all. Let's see. I think this guy's ready to start being washed. The other ones have some stuff on them I need to touch up. Let me just grab one of my brushes. This is I call it my beater brush. You can just beat the crap out of it and not care. Davenport, right on. In the Iowa City, Cedar Rapids area. We're actually super close. Okay. Alright, give me just a hot second here to focus on this, make sure I don't miss any spots terribly. So I just kind of start with like all over washes, and then I build in specific colors as I go later on. But I'm going for a slightly John Blanche-ish style, and so what that requires is deep, deep contrast, so lots of washes, lots of different colors, having a lot of just stark contrasts. There we go. We should play a game sometime. I got 1,000 points of Cities of Sigmar Dark Elves. Heck yeah, dude. I would do that in a heartbeat. If anyone's curious and want to join in, I usually play at a store called Hobby Corner in Iowa City. There's actually closer stores to me, but one of them does a thing that I've never heard, which is they only let you play games there if they sell them, and they do not sell Warhammer or any kind of Games Workshop products. And so I was just like, oh, okay. That isn't, I don't really get it as a game store, but all right. Seems like you'd be interested in having people come in, and how do you get new products if you don't let anyone, experiment with anything that you don't sell? But all right, cool. Neato torpedo. Let's see. Ain't here to tell people how to do their biz. Just signed up for my first league at my local shop. Wouldn't be enjoying this hobby without this channel. Thanks, Doug. Oh, you're so welcome. That's so cool. I'm so glad that shops are having signups and stuff, like just normal game things. That sounds nice. Doesn't that sound nice to everybody? Normality. Oh man. Yeah, I'm gonna be trying, I think, I'm giving some demos of 3rd edition. At this point, I'm kind of done talking about the old world. I'm just kind of rambling now, so I apologize if anyone's very upset about that. But I want to give some more demos, but after that, I'm going to possibly start up a Path to Glory League if people are interested in the full game of AOS, just because, like I said, I'm in sort of a weird place where I feel like so many folks here either they just want to play like the small skirmish style games, so like Underworlds, Warcry, Kill Team, that kind of thing, but not super interested in actual massive army games. In fact, I only have 2 buddies locally that really have an interest in AOS as far as a game system is concerned, which is interesting. It's so funny because like in the Seattle area, I could always get a game of AOS. Like if I just reached out, either my first go-to would always be my buddy Jack over on Rerolling Ones, but any of those guys would be happy to hang out. There's several people in the local tournament circuit that would hang out, and just roll some dice with me. But here, it's so much harder to get a game of AOS in, and all the games that were not super popular back in Seattle seem to be doing quite well out here. So it's a bit of a shock, if I'm super honest with you. And that's why I'm like, yeah, I'll try Underworlds. Why not? Let's do it. Okay. So those boys need to dry. Let's see. What's the soon-to-be sold army you're painting today? These are my Slaves to Darkness with custom-made Marauders. And I will have you know, my good friend, I have been able to hold on to this army for some time. I did this radical new thing. it totally changed my hobby. Maybe you guys have heard of this. I just put the models on my shelf. It's crazy. It's crazy how that works. It's this weird system where it's like I don't sell it. I just put it on my shelf, and it's weird because it stays there if you do that. Which is just nuts, right? I mean, I have certainly never heard of such witchcraft before, but I'm told that it's not that weird. The 100 Kingdoms is probably the most boring faction in Conquest, in my opinion, even compared to the other Conquest factions in tabletop. You know, they are, I'm gonna say, I think they exist specifically for people who really like medieval times as an aesthetic, right? The guys who were like really into Bretonnia, where it's like, oh yes, these are my knightly divisions, and you know, they like that very, very I'm gonna say traditional sense of historical wargaming. I think a lot of it's for them. But I tend to agree. We're talking about Conquest, if you guys didn't catch it. They're a human faction. Well, there's more than one human faction because there's the Nords. Sort of like their poster boy good guys are humans, but it's like medieval times set in an unfathomable hellscape of all these different monsters and terrible things trying to kill you. So model-wise, they can look a little less than interesting when they're like, you know, walking next to demigods and monsters and aliens and all kinds of crazy crap. Humans are boring. Give me the aliens. Give me the monsters. It sounds like you're just selling to the shelf. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, but the shelf has a way better policy for letting me have my stuff back if I regret it later. Just a moment here, just picking out all little weapon bits. Bits and bobs. These guys were a pain. I had to cut up the flails that the flagellants have, and I put on like hammers and stuff like that from the poxwalkers. Some of them are a little bit more, we'll say, flaccid flail syndrome. Than others, but I think they all turned out pretty well in the end. Let's see. Frankie, also, what is your opinion on the new upcoming Conquest factions, the Old Dominion? I'm going to level with you. The Old Dominion is one that I have had the hardest time trying to wrap my head around. So, like, I know that they have lore in the new campaign book. I have not had a chance to crack it open. But all references to them and sort of their history that we have access to apart from that campaign book. If you guys are interested, basically, they found... they created their own god. Like, humans found some broken shard of a god, and the more that they worshipped it, it kind of grew and kind of grew its own malevolent sentience as an idea, or as the core idea. And so it went utterly insane, and that is what made up the Old Dominion. It's a hellish thing of a broken, crazy god, which sounds like super metal, but the details of it were always so vague that that's actually why I held off doing any lore for the 100 Kingdoms, even though they're kind of one of the poster boy armies. I always held off because I was like, the story isn't clear yet, right? And so I'm excited to learn more about them for that exact reason of like, it seems like they got some cool stuff to talk about, but until it gets a little clarified a little bit more, there wasn't so much that I wanted to discuss. Whereas now I'm like, oh yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for them. I'm excited for the Wadroon, which are the orcs of the Conquest universe. Orcs riding dinosaurs. 3 words. You know, say it to me and I'm yours forever. Boom, orcs riding dinosaurs. Let's see. Cool. How about you? Sweet. Okay, cool. I think the most underrated faction in anything would always be like Mayan, Aztec, Demon Army. Since those cultures really had cool freaking demons. They definitely did. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's some cool stuff in history that I don't feel like many game developers, have touched into. I think there's still so much material out there that can be explored just like that. Yeah. You know what sounds rad? Like super Viking Aztec demon monsters. You're like, what? Yes, please. I want to go to there. Let's see. I'm kind of in a weird point where everything just kind of has to dry for a bit, which is sort of a bummer. How are these guys looking? They are coming out. Sweet. Okay, so I've got some details popping there. Guys looking dope. Once all the pustules and stuff, that's what a lot of the contrast is going to come from, because a lot of it looks very dark right now. But once I do one highlight layer, get the pustules, and then everything from there is just more sequential thinned out washes to move the color the way I want it to, then it'll all look, boom, special. So I'm excited for that. You know, if you want to keep up with all the progress on these guys and see better pictures, go check out my Instagram. That's probably where I post them the most. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up, I think, just because I got some stuff to do today. Got a little late in the day. Got some videos to edit for next week, and I think I'm good to go for that. So thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I hope it was a good show for you. Again, please do tune in for August 1st when I do my live stream. I'm very excited to try and raise some funds for a good cause and hopefully improve the lives of many people. So thank you so much for your time. Check out that link in the description below for more details on the charity. And we'll catch you next time. Happy wargaming, my friends.